In this video, I want to talk you through the 7 primal movements that your body was really intended to perform. And these are movements that are functional and that you really need to master in order to function properly. And the unfortunate fact of the matter is that most of us, gym bro or not, are not functional. The vast majority of us find it difficult to move around in our environment. We suffer from bad backs and knee pain and aren't all that strong. And this is the result of the way we live. Unfortunately, modern life is not conducive to functional fitness because we're very rarely challenged physically in any meaningful way. The majority of us spend most of our time sitting down, and that means we're getting zero exercise. What makes this worse though is that sitting itself is actually bad for us too. Why? Because when we sit, we're forced into an unnatural position. Think about it. There were no chairs in the wild, so you would never have made this movement. When you sit at a desk, it forces your legs into a right angle. This means your hip flexors, the muscles that move your legs upward in front of you, will be shortened and tightened. At the same time, your hip extensors around the back will be stretched and elongated. Meanwhile, your pecs are going to be bunched up as your arms lean forward and your neck will be constantly pointing down at the screen. Your back will likely be rounded too, shoulders forward and diaphragm squashed by the weight of your upper body. In other words, you're gradually destroying your joints and musculature, and you sit like this for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then you come home and sit like it some more. So, how will we relax in the wild? Simple. We squat. Squatting is the natural equivalent of sitting, and it's actually really good for us because it puts us in a full body stretch. Today, a fair proportion of people are actually incapable of squatting at all. Try it yourself. Are you able to completely squat down while keeping your heel flat on the floor? Now, this is considered one of the basic fundamental movements that all of us should be able to do. In fact, there are thought to be 7 of these primal movements, which are squatting, lunging, bending, pushing, pulling, gait, that's walking or running, and twisting. If you can't do these basic 7 things, then chances are that you're lacking in fitness, in flexibility and in general health, and it will very likely lead to injury and other problems somewhere down the line. So, can you guess where we're going with this? That's right, these are the basic movements that a good training program should be made up of. By training the 7 primal movements, you're able to strengthen yourself through all the regular movements that you might face in daily life, and that you're able to prevent injury in all of them. And now, if you introduce additional isolation exercises on top of all this, just to hone a particular muscle group that seems to be lagging, then you'll be able to improve your aesthetics without worrying about creating imbalances or potentially encouraging an injury. We briefly touched on the idea of compound movements in the first video, but just to reiterate, these are your movements that utilize multiple major muscle groups at once in unison. Examples of compound lifts include squat, deadlift, bench press, pull-up, press-up, also known as push-up, overhead press, and kettlebell swing. What's cool about these movements is that they actually lead to better fat loss and muscle gain. That's because the body responds to us training our muscles by producing a variety of hormones called anabolic hormones. These include growth hormone and testosterone, which in turn tell the body to start burning fat and building muscle tissue. The more muscle you use, the more of these hormones get released. So, as you can imagine, something like the squat that incorporates all of your biggest muscles into one powerful movement will really encourage your body to go into a muscle building zone. What's also key to point out at this stage is that compound movements allow you to lift heavier weights. Why? Because when you go compound, you're using more big muscle. More big muscle means more power, which means more weight. And as you might imagine, the more weights you move, the more intense the workout becomes for the body as a whole. If you're a guy and you want to build massive muscles that look ripped and shredded beneath a very low body fat percentage, then compound lifts are the #1 strategy you should be using. But that's not the only demographic that these movements are ideal for. Just as importantly, women should also be using compound lifts too. Just Google girls who squat and you'll see some of the most impressively formed buttocks on the web. Now, as mentioned, those all-important anabolic hormones that get released when you lift heavy weights don't only result in building more muscle. They also help you to burn more fat to get a leaner look. In fact, lifting weights, and especially using compound movements, is one of the very best ways to burn fat and to lower your body fat percentage overall. That's because it doesn't only burn calories while you're training, but it also encourages your body to continue burning calories throughout the days and weeks that follow. Simply having muscles requires the body to burn fat simply to sustain that mass. If you're a woman trying to get into shape and you spent years running for miles and eating barely anything, then your hormones probably aren't working in your favor. Get down to the gym, start lifting, and you might well see results start coming thicker and faster. And finally, we have those who are suffering with joint pains and mobility issues. Perhaps you're elderly, perhaps you're recovering from some kind of injury. Either way, you find it difficult to get around and you're thinking that maybe, you shouldn't really be lifting heavy weights. Well, you probably don't need to be lifting really heavy weights, but there's nothing wrong with taking some lighter ones and still training these compound movements. Using compound lifts like these train your body to move correctly, and this is an excellent way to restore mobility and health. So with that in mind, what are the compound movements that you can use to start targeting the 7 primal movements? Well, here are some examples. First of all, there's squatting. And by that I mean things like squats, deadlifts, and kettlebell swings. Then there's lunging. And by that I mean lunges and side squats. There's bending, means deadlifts, sit-ups, and leg raises. Then there's pushing, that's bench press, overhead press, push-ups or press-ups. Pulling, that's pull-up and rowing. There's gait, that's jogging, running, walking. And finally twisting, now that's heavy bag, twisting sit-ups, and cable wood chop. So if you take these exercises and combine them into a workout, you have performed a routine that targeted every important movement the human body is capable of, that results in a huge amount of muscle, and that puts the body into a highly anabolic state. Now, this is important. Before you try any of these movements, it's important that you learn how to do them properly. This is kind of the whole point. If you don't learn how to use the moves properly, then you'll actually just be rehearsing and learning bad movement patterns, which will in turn cause you to become increasingly injury prone. Little mistakes like rounding the back during a squat can even lead to an immediate injury, so make sure you find a trainer in the gym or someone who looks like they know what they're doing and ask for help. You can find plenty of instruction online, but nothing beats actually speaking with someone who can see your form and correct it in person.
I hope this video helps you on your journey to a stronger, healthier you. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting videos like this one, as this is just a part of several videos in this series. Please refer to the description below for suggested tips that will enable you to achieve peak performance in your health and fitness journey. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video.